Yeah, good morning, everyone. So nice to see you again today. And yeah, we will begin the very important uh, topics on derivative securities. And we'll start with forward and futures today. And in our next videos, we'll see options and then swaps. Okay, so let's go into our materials. Okay, so if should you have questions or comments, just talk on the mic, okay? So forward or futures, right? Forward or futures. We call it derivative securities. So as the name suggests, right? So you could easily guess that we are talking about something derived, right, from something else, right? That's why we call it a derivative security, right? So the value of this security is derived from something else, right? So how could we do that? That's the development of derivative securities since 1950s, but no, the fast pace of development has started happening since 1970s, especially since the publication of Black and Scholes option pricing model in 1973. So we call it derivative as the mathematical, you know, uh, connotation that sticks with the word derivatives, right? So let's say, uh, let's use someone here, maybe Varian, okay? Varian.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
so let's say, Varian, you're making an agreement with Richard, right? So this kind of agreement, right, could be spot, could be forward by nature. You see, like, so for transaction, okay, for transaction or forward contract is frequently interpreted as the opposite of the spot, right? So what is the difference again? Spot means you're making you're making the deal now and you also execute it now. So again, the deal is made right now and the execution also takes place right now. So what we mean by right now is usually T plus 2. So we still define T plus 2 as a spot transaction, right? So yeah, about 2 days, or you could even include 3 days into the spot definition, right? So forward contract, on the other hand, you could imagine, uh, is showing something that we make the deal right now, right? You make the deal right now, but the execution would happen later. So again, what we mean by later would be like more than T plus 2, right? Maybe next week, maybe 5 days from now, maybe 1 month, right? Maybe 3 months, maybe 9 months, maybe 2 years, and so forth. Right? So the execution will happen or will be carried out later. Okay, so again, spot transaction or spot whatever spot items would mean the deal and execution are carried out or undertaken right now. Again, right now could mean T plus 2, right, maximum. On the other hand, the forward transaction is that the deal is made right now, but the execution would be carried out later. So we'll make a hypothetical situation where, let's say, Varian, right? Varian, you're making a deal with Richard, right? Let's say,
Yes, sir.
so in the forward or futures market, we always use this term, long and short. Okay, long means to hold or to buy, right? Short, of course, is the opposite, right? So to let go or to sell. That's why you short it, right? So we always use these terms, right? Instead of saying buying or selling. It's more I think more proper and more familiar in the derivative market to call them like long and short. Right? So let's say Varian, you're holding a long position, right? Give an easiest example for now. Maybe a MacBook Pro 2020, okay? MacBook Pro 2020 that usually will come out in June or July, right? So you long MacBook Pro, okay? Let's say at the price of 4,000 a piece, okay? And you could make whatever number of contracts you want, right? Maybe 1,000 contracts or 100 contracts and so forth, right? So you're taking a long position, right? Let's say the maturity or the expiry date of the contract is 3 months from now, right? 3 months. So it's about July, right? So you're making this forward contract with Richard, right? Meaning that Richard is taking a short position, right? Short position, again at 4,000 a piece for 3 months. Okay, so what will happen? 3 months later, right? 3 months later. So again, long position means the holding position, right? The buying position. So obviously, 3 months later, Varian will get whatever contracts you make. Maybe let's say 100 contracts, right? Between you, 100 contracts. So 3 months later, Varian will get 100 units of MacBook Pro, right? 16-inch MacBook Pros at 4,000 a piece. So the contract is valued at 400,000, right? So Varian will get the MacBook Pro by paying 400,000 to Richard, right? So Richard will have to deliver 100 units of MacBook Pro and receive 400,000. Okay, so this is a simple, simple example and illustration of the forward market, right? So again, the deal is made right now. The deal is made right now, but the execution, again, will be carried out sometime in the future, right? Sometime in the future could mean 1 week from now, or even 5 days from now, right? But again, usually the limit for spot transaction is about T+2, or maybe the most, at most T+3, right? Okay, so we'll see a lot of examples later. Okay, so before we go into the some technicalities, let's see various types of futures contracts that we have at the world level and also at in many countries. Right? You see grain there. Grain is again the staple food of especially the Western civilization, like grain, animals and meats. You see cows, pigs there, and then food. Chocolate is a hot commodity for forward and futures, and then fiber and metal. See some metal there, quite famous and familiar metal categories that we see, like gold, silver, platinum, palladium. Right? Palladium is usually made for ring. University graduation rings are usually made from palladium. In some countries, we don't have such culture, but again, in many Western culture or Western universities, we have that, the graduation rings. Of course, we are not talking about the NBA championship rings, right? They are made of gold, of course. And then oil, petrol. So I think you're following the news that even the futures price for crude oil has turned sour, right? Has plunged into zero and some sort of negative zone because there's no demand for it. So futures, oil futures price for May has turned negative or close to zero because there's no demand and there are not enough places to store the oil, right? And store tanks and something like that. And then wood, right? And then the financial futures contracts, you see interest rate futures, market indices, market indexes. You'll see a lot of examples there, and of course foreign exchanges. Foreign exchanges we'll see the difference between the forward and futures. Right? But for the futures contracts, the foreign exchanges are quite limited to the famous and mostly used foreign exchanges in the world. So for foreign exchanges, they are not included into the futures contracts or the market for futures contract. We have to do, we have to make deals and transactions in the forward market. So we'll see in a little while the differences. So for now, you see the the items or categories that we have for especially for the futures markets, and they keep developing, right, from year to year or even from day to day. So there are a lot of innovations that take place from time to time. Okay, so we'll come back to it later. So why are we doing this kind of transaction, right? The derivative securities. So returning to this discussion on the portfolio formation, right? Portfolio management, right? So I hope you still remember, right? So I've made videos on portfolio theory in 2 parts, even in 3 parts, and you know the essence of the portfolio management again is to manage the risk, right? So to reduce risk. Unfortunately, with the portfolio management, we could only reduce one type of the risk. What risk is that? Is the idiosyncratic risk. We call it idiosyncratic or specific risk. Right, specific risk. So again, as suggested by the name, you see specific risk refers to risk suffered by a certain business unit or a certain institution independent from the risk of other institutions. So we call it specific, right? For example, you have a portfolio of many assets, right? Maybe one of your business units or one of your assets went down, right? Went broke, just because it couldn't compete with, you know, other competitors, other businesses in the industry and so forth, or it just made like wrong strategy and something like that. Okay, so specific risk. Unfortunately, the other type of risk, which is the market risk, or we can call it beta, right? Market risk or macro risk or whatever name you could use, right? The systematic risk is undiversifiable using the portfolio management. Why is that? As the name suggests, again, system means the whole system, right? So systematic risk obviously refers to risks suffered by the whole economic players in the system, right? So the whole, you know, the whole economy, all business and economic players in that system suffer from the same risk. So you can name them, right? Inflation risk, interest rate risk, even foreign exchange risk, political risk, right? Anything else like interest rate, we mentioned it. All the macroeconomic type of risk, right? So systematic risk. So if everybody or every player in the economy suffers from the same risk, then this risk is not diversifiable, right? We could not diversifiable this risk using the portfolio management. Why is that? Because again, you have a lot of assets in your portfolio, and all of them, let's suppose that all of them live or stay at the same ecosystem, right? The same system. Right? If the system is attacked, for example, this condition, right? It's the healthcare crisis is attacked by a new strain of, you know, plague or virus, and the whole system suffers from similar risk. So this is called systematic, right? Undiversifiable using the portfolio management. That's why then the idea of alleviating or even eliminating the systematic risk, has to, harness like further techniques, right? Further techniques than the portfolio management. That's why we are doing the internationalization, right? So you go international, right? You go international again by shifting to another continent or another country. You are shifting the system, right? You see, that's why you're doing internationalization of your business, right? You go international, so you try to become a multinational corporation, right, or something like that. So by internationalizing your company, then you try to shift to another system or to other systems. Unfortunately, this also has seen a decrease in its effectiveness because more and more countries and even regions are converging, right? Converging into due to the globalization. So we were saying, you see, the Eastern world is more and more heading toward the middle, right? Of course, Eastern countries cannot become Western countries. Right? How can we? Right? But Western countries, in the same spirit, are also converging to the middle. So you see, the globe, right? The globe will become a big country of itself. That's why the effectiveness of internationalization in decreasing or in even eliminating the systematic risk has decreased, right? The function or the effectiveness. But the second one is still effective, and I think will be effective forever. This is what we call the hedging, right? Hedging and insurance. And this is part of what we call the big theme of risk management. This is where we are right now. Okay, so we are here. So we try to manage and even eliminate the systematic risk using the hedging techniques, one of which is the derivative securities transaction for hedging purposes. Okay, so you see the big idea there. So what is the main use of, again, the derivative securities? Actually, the main function or the main the main utilization would be for hedging purposes. Hedging purposes. Okay, so now let's talk more details about hedging. So what is the main meaning of hedging? See, the English word there, hedging, comes or stems from the word hedge. And interestingly, the word hedge actually means what? Gate, right? So you try to gate something, that's why, again, the popular definition of hedging would be protection, right? So to hedge something is popularly defined as to protect the value of something, right? Why to protect the value of something? Again, the word hedging comes from the word gate, right? Hedge. Hedge means gate, right? So you try to protect the value of something, and that something here would mean your assets, right? Or your securities, or your even your physical assets and so forth. So you try to do the hedging mechanisms because you try to protect the value of something. So why you need to protect the value of something? Let's see the modern world, okay, in modern times. So let's imagine in the past, right? Maybe in 1950s or even before the Second World War, actually the world had been facing, like similar situations, albeit with different complexity, of course, right? But actually, the world is repeating itself from time to time. You see that situations actually are repeating, right? But in more, I think, more complex or complicated fashion. So let's say in 1950s or even beforehand, you are, let's say you were an owner of an airlines company, right? Airlines firm. Very easy example, right? So as an airlines firm, even since some decades ago, and this still remains the same, right? What is the most dreaded thing, right? The most